Hey, World Entertainment, and were you ever expecting there to be a Back to the Futures Part 4, or a reboot, or something on that lines? Because that's been a question that has been going around since Part 3 came out way back in 1990. And of course, the one thing that we all know and were guaranteed was that we were never going to get a reboot. Not as long as Zemeckis was still alive and still around, because that is one thing that he very much put in place was, yeah, you ain't doing that as long as I'm around. Well, the question doesn't stop being asked, and it's just recently been asked again to the screenwriter of the original movie, who also penned part 2 and 3, Bob Gale. And he was asked, hey, are we gonna ever get a Back to the Futures 4? And he gave a very blunt answer to that question. So let's dive into this, and then we'll talk a little bit about Back to the Future. So it says, Bob Gale, the screenwriter behind the iconic sci-fi adventure franchise Back to the Future, has shared his take on the possibility of a sequel. Gale, who co-wrote the first film with Robert Zemeckis and then took care of the rest by himself, candidly says, F you to all those who keep asking, and that's a direct quote. The writer joined Christopher Lloyd and Leah Thompson at the Saturn Awards to talk about the legacy of the franchise. Per Collider, Gale is in tune with what Zemeckis and others have said in the past. And this is his direct quote. People always say, when are you guys doing a Back to the Future 4? And we say, F you. And you can quote me on this. So they flat out are like, we're never doing a fourth one. It's the perfect trilogy, basically. You know, it had the perfect ending. You don't need to do anymore. So it says this. Created by Gale and Zemeckis and with the full support of an executive producer, Steven Spielberg, during his run as Hollywood's whiz kid in the 80s, Back to the Future was a massive hit. It made over $381 million at the box office from a production budget of $19 million, with a chunk of the budget going towards reshoots after Eric Stoltz was replaced by Michael J. Fox. It was the most successful film of 1985 and received 4 Academy Award nominations, winning for Best Sound. Curiously, the groundbreaking visual effects were not recognized, with an Oscar nomination. Additionally, home video sales and rentals were a home run, with the movie breaking the record for the most rented VHS tape in 1986. After Back to the Future became a major hit, Universal Pictures began asking Gale and Zemeckis for a sequel. Initially, the creative duo behind the time travel movie didn't like the idea. They felt that a sequel could affect the legacy that the first film had built. But after a few discussions, they were convinced to do Back to the Future Part 2, mainly because Universal Pictures would have gone forward without them, and the "to be continued" caption had already been placed on the end of the movie in the home release. So I'm assuming that was the first movie they're talking about there. So it says, ironically, Zemeckis and Gale not only agreed to do 1, but 2 sequels. Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 were shot back to back and released on November 22nd, 1989 and May 25th, 1990, respectively, and both were also successful at the box office. The third film ended things beautifully, making it unnecessary to revisit the characters or their stories, and nothing followed after that. Well, at least no movies were made. And it just says that they went and made a musical that premiered in 2020 about Back to the Future. Now, of course, if they were ever to do a sequel to Back to the Future Part 3, so a Part 4, you're not doing that without, of course, Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. Unfortunately, how the hell would you get Michael J. Fox to be able to do it? With, of course, his Parkinson's disease and whatnot, which seems to be getting considerably worse which is very sad. And of course, Christopher Lloyd, he's no spring chicken, but at the same time, you know, he gets about. He seems to be in good health and stuff, so long may that last. And Leah Thompson and all the rest of them seem to be doing quite well as themselves. But, you know, you can't have Back to the Futures without Doc Brown and Marty McFly, that being Christopher Lloyd, and Michael J. Fox. And it would just be scummy if they were like, well, we'll get Michael to give his face, you know, like we'll just imprint his face on another actor's body and we'll get him to do the voice, but we'll have another actor. No, we don't want that. The fact that Disney now own Back to the Futures is the big red flag. You know, they are just licking their lips to the days Zemeckis dies so they can go, and we're remaking Back to the Futures. Don't forget, they are the people who, once they got control of Fox, they are the ones who went in and edited the movie with the Ooh La La magazine. They removed that magazine and that scene. So, no, do not remake this movie. Never remake this movie. And no, don't make a sequel. The one thing you saw Doc Brown throughout the movies wanting was for the DeLorean to be destroyed. It was like, it was a mistake to make that infernal machine. He wants it destroyed. And of course, he gets stuck back in the past with the love of his life, Clara. And Marty makes it back and gets the car destroyed. Inadvertently, obviously, because the train was coming and it was like, uh-oh. And it got annihilated. And then he was like, well, you got your wish, Doc. The car's destroyed. And then, of course, Doc arrives back. But what's he do? Well, he comes back in his new time machine, the train, and he now has the family. And the fact that it's like he's got the family, he's been to the future, he wants to go back to the past, he just basically wants to live out his days, maybe see a few things. And Marty wants nothing to do with time travel anymore, but he gets that memento of the photo of him and Doc at the clock before it was put up into the tower. Perfect ending. It was the perfect ending for that story. So, no, we don't want a fourth movie. No one's really ever asked for a fourth movie. Journalists and stuff has been asking for a fourth movie or a remake. Fans don't want that. And good God, no fan should ever have to be asking that, because it shouldn't happen. Let this movie franchise rest in peace, basically. We have the three. They're fantastic. No need to screw with them, remake them, reboot them, do sequels, prequels, any of that type of crap. Leave it alone. Just leave it alone. So, with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.